Taliban banned women from attending medical schools and the UN condemned it. On the sidelines of the Doha Forum, I sat down with Rina Amiri, US Special Envoy for Afghan Women, Girls and Human Rights, to ask her take on that, and also if the gradual engagement with Taliban is still on the table. I'm Kübra Akkoç, and this is One on One. Rina Amiri, US Special Envoy for Afghan Women, Girls and Human Rights. It's a pleasure to have you on TRT World on the sidelines of the Doha Forum.
Thank you very much for this opportunity.
I'd like to start with the latest. So Taliban banned women attending medical classes, and we got a condemnation from United Nations. I wonder what's your take on that?
It's heartbreaking. This comes on top of over 80 edicts that have progressively taken away women's rights to work, to education, to public participation, even the simple pleasures of going to the park or going to a bathhouse. The law, which is commonly referred as the PV law, doesn't even allow them to speak in public space. And now you're taking away, not only further taking away the right to education. They've taken away the right to secondary education, to universities. Now, with elimination of medical studies, that means that there will not be female nurses, health practitioners, doctors, in a context in which women are not allowed to be treated by male doctors or male health practitioners. That effectively means every mother, every daughter, every sister, every child, a neonatal child, man or boy or girl, are going to be at risk. This not only threatens women, but the future population of Afghanistan.
Since Taliban takeover, actually, women's education has become a hot button issue. And do you see any progress has been made on that? Because when they took over, it was all over the place, news headlines. Girls won't be able to study, girls won't be able to do that, their rights would be limited. Do you think there is any progress now since the time they took over?
No, it's on the contrary. What we have seen is that there has been an acceleration and an expansion of the restriction of women and girls' rights. It's not, unfortunately, as I noted, it's not just education, it's in every facet of their life. Women and girls are being erased from society, and now when they are being denied access to health education, it is an existential threat to women being able to survive. This is a threat to their lives.
And what do you think is the responsibility of the international communities? Because my feeling is the whole world's attention is kind of directed to elsewhere, like be it Gaza, Lebanon, like Sudan now. Afghan girls, women, their problems, their human rights violations, those stuff do not make headlines as often as they did in the past. What do you think is the responsibility of the international community?
I think it's our collective responsibility to recognize that this is not just about women and girls in Afghanistan. It is about the implications for women and girls everywhere. If the Taliban if their treatment of women and girls is tolerated and is framed as, as acceptable or something that the world will just look away from, it puts at threat the rights of women and girls in the region. It puts a threat to women and girls and the Muslim majority world in particular, where there are hardline elements that would also have indicated in many contexts that they want to push back against the rights of women and girls. And I think more broadly, it's 50% of the population. It's a moral responsibility and it's a strategic imperative. When you erase women and girls, you create a situation of radicalization. So I think that we have to understand that from many perspectives, we are compelled to not look away and to do everything that is at our disposal to support women and girls in Afghanistan.
So then you think international community still has leverage over these issues? It just needs to facilitate and use it in a better way?
When we talk about leverage, oftentimes the leverage focuses on the Taliban, I think it's also important that Afghan people, there are 40 million Afghans who are looking very closely at the world and listening. Are they supporting our rights? Are they with us? Because they're also making a calculation. If they don't hear from the world, and if they don't hear particularly from the Muslim majority world, that condemnation, then it's a signal to them that the world has given up on them. Ultimately, I think the Afghan people will prevail. I do believe that women and girls will prevail. I think that it's going to be a long and difficult and challenging road ahead. But the Taliban have to consistently hear it, and they have to hear it both in terms of messaging, but in terms of the concrete ways that the Taliban are engaged. Women's rights, human rights have to be prioritized for the Taliban to take it seriously. It can't just be a talking point. I think we have to identify how we meaningfully push back and make it clear to the Taliban that they will not achieve their goals of normalization or all of the other things that they aspire to without addressing this issue. And it's not an imposition from outside. This is the demand of the Afghan people that we are respecting. And we are betting on 40 million Afghans. We are staying with the demands and desires of 40 million Afghans. And that's something that we should not shy away from.
Following up on that, actually, the gradual engagement with Taliban from the US point of view, is it still on the table or is it somehow progressing?
We have made clear to the Taliban in every discussion that we've had that for any progress and normalization or gradual engagement is contingent on them respecting the rights of the Afghan people, particularly the rights of women and girls. We have sat down with them. We have made it clear that we are prepared to talk with them. We have kept the channels of communication open. But I think they understand very clearly that there's going to be no progress unless these issues are addressed in a meaningful way and that these draconian policies are reversed.
And lastly, come January 28th, we're going to have another Trump presidency. What are your expectations? How Trump administration's policy towards Afghanistan, Taliban in particular, maybe with regards to girls and women's rights, would look like?
What I am reassured by is that this is not an issue that is partisan. It's not just, with one side of the country or the other side of the country, one party or another party. We have consistently seen that the one issue that people deeply care about is the rights of women and girls. It galvanizes people, it galvanizes communities, and I think that the next administration will see that this is of vital interest.
Rina Amiri, U.S. Special Envoy for Afghan girls, women and human rights. It was a real pleasure to have you on TRT World on the sidelines of Doha Forum. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much for putting a spotlight on Afghan women and girls and standing with women and girls of Afghanistan.